Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jewelers reimagines family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Working one-on-one, Duke's designers honor the original story while creating something fresh and modern. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com, where old stories become new treasures.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Spring football underway. I guess there's some schools that might not be underway. You think everybody's underway by now, PK?
No, but it's getting real close. I saw a list. I actually photocopied it of all the spring practices starting in the Big 12, and there's still some to go. Pretty much everybody's doing away with spring games and all that stuff.
Yeah. Between injuries and players getting poached, it's just not worth it.
Right.
What's the point? And the difference between a practice where you scrimmage 11 on 11 in a spring game is just letting the public in, basically. There's no reason if they want to play 11 on 11 tackle football, well, they can. But you risk injury. So right. How many snaps do you want to do that? You're just playing the odds. You guys need some reps, but you guys don't need to be blowing out knees either. So got to figure that out for yourself.
He's ready.
All right, we got Mitch Harper joining us now, insider covering BYU for KSLSports.com. Mitch, good morning.
Hey, good morning, DJ. Happy to be on.
Mitch, we all want the dirt. What is the coolest, juiciest morsel you've heard so far? What's the best thing about spring ball?
That is a great question. I would say, the juiciest thing would probably be maybe some of the changes that you're seeing with some of these with Kelly Papinga's defense, most notably probably the edge rushers maybe morphing more into, outside backers. You're seeing like a Hunter Clegg kind of take on that hybrid role. And look, last year he was more of a, bull rusher, kind of in the mold of a Tyler Batty. Clegg's leaned out a little bit. He's going to be more of that guy that you saw last year with Nusi Talmoy Payout, more of those type of body types. And I think that's something that's been a notable change in Kelly Papinga's defense because, again, you're trying to identify what are the big changes between Jay Hill and Kelly Papinga and, K-Pop with his background with Bronco Mendenhall and the successes that he's had with linebackers, Fred Warner, Kyle Vanoy. They love the, pass rushing linebackers from his time with Bronco. And a lot of those guys are kind of morphing into that. But, it's been kind of a ho-hum spring ball, to be quite honest. And I think another aspect, though, is that Bear Bachmeier, is earning rave reviews. And I think that's something that's important for BYU, that he continues to take steps forward. But, yeah, pretty much, ho-hum spring for BYU.
You would think that maybe with the loss of Jack Kelly that it would take a hit at the linebacker spot because obviously he's really good and he was fun to watch. But they got a couple of transfers in combined with the returners that I can argue that the position is even going to be better than last year, right?
I think so. I think that, Kedu Luave steps right in and is one of the top guys on the team and a leader of that team for sure, from coming in from Cal. And, Glasgow, when he gets fully healthy and he returns in fall, he'll be really good. And, someone that's really trending up in spring ball has been Miles Hall. He was someone that played 2 years ago in relief of Harrison Taggart late in the season. If you remember, 2 years ago when BYU was undefeated, I think it was that Kansas game, and he stepped in and also played against Arizona State. Didn't really see much time last year, but he's someone I think that's expected to take a big jump this year. And You still got, an Ephraim Asiat if they can figure out, really what to do with him and really find if he can be an every down type of guy if asked upon. But they've got options. They've got depth, and linebacker's always been a position that BYU has had success with. And then you got these, hybrid guys like a Braxton Lindsey, too, who's a former 4-star recruit, picked BYU over Oklahoma. And so just things like that. I mean, I think that's one of the big things that catches my attention with this team is that it probably is, you've got the probably the deepest team that Kalani's had since he, took over the program in 2016. But I think more notably is that you've got, second, third string guys that look every bit the part of what a starter could have looked like years ago for BYU. And I think that's just something that's kind of caught my attention, the body types, the measurables, the cliches, but they really do have a lot of talent. And even Fesi Sitake told me with, the wide receiver position is that they feel confident that they've got 12 guys that could play. And he wants to see the best emerge in this spring ball. And that's where you're seeing, a lot of buzz for a true freshman in Legend Glasgow getting run. So they feel like anyone that steps foot into the program, they're expected to contribute right away. Whereas before, the thought early in Kalani's tenure was sign them, send them on a mission, then gray shirt them, then red shirt them. And 4 years have gone by and you haven't seen these guys do a thing. And then you think, well, that was a recruiting miss. Those guys have done nothing. And a lot of the players that were in their same recruiting cycle have already moved on in other programs. So I think their numbers are in a great spot. And that's creating this situation where they feel really good about the depth and linebackers at near the top of the strengths of this team in 2026.
So let's go in the other direction. What position group would be at the bottom as far as depth, and where might there be a little nerves of, if there's injuries here? What position group would that be, and why is it running back?
I think it's definitely running back. I think that spot is cause for concern after LJ Martin. I think Sione Moa, the fact that he's competing and he's been going through all the team portions of practice, I think that's been significant because there was even questions going into spring if he was going to be able to go. He told me that he probably shouldn't have played in the Big 12 championship game last December, that was too soon from his injury with the compartment syndrome. I mean, again, that was just significant stuff. And the fact that he's playing and that they still believed in him and that he's worked his way back, I think that's significant because if he's healthy, he can be a valuable RB2. He's probably a more dynamic, this overall athlete than maybe even LJ, but LJ is just so productive and he's going to be an elite player for BYU this year. But after that, I think there's a lot of questions at that running back spot. Devon Eka, another true freshman from Lehigh, he'll be probably in the mix as well. But I think on another position that's kind of thin a little bit is cornerback. They've got Evan Johnson and Trey Alexander. The third cornerback is probably, Mississippi State transfer Javen Williams. Javen Williams is interesting. He said that Kalani Sitake was really involved in his recruitment out of the portal to come into BYU, which kind of a different commentary than usual for BYU transfers. Kalani was heavily involved in that one, but I think that's the spot where if Johnson or Alexander go down, I think that one could get kind of thin too. They like some of the young guys, but again, everyone behind those two pretty much unproven, and that's a little bit concerning at that spot.
Who's backing up the Grizzly Bear at quarterback?
I'd expect it's Trayson Bourget, but I'll admit, Aaron Roderick still doesn't just emphatically say it. It kind of leaves the door open, which is kind of interesting commentary when he was asked about that backup spot between Trayson Bourget and Enoch Watson. There's no spring portal anymore, A-Rod, so just no one can poach your guys. And look, maybe someone can always find a roundabout way to get out and leave a team, but
yep.
but
didn't he address
Trayson Bourget.
I think he addressed that at the very first availability he had. Obviously Jake Retzlaff, he found a path. So there's no portal in a formal sense, but there is a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, there always is. The walk-on side of things, you can always find some sort of path, even though the the NCAA seems to be trying to have a shallow attempt to try to threaten, we'll take away budgets and football, suspend coaches for 6 games or something. So we'll see if that can actually work. But Bourguet is probably the guy. I do think Enoch Watson from Arizona, the true freshman, is interesting. He's got a really good arm, and I think as far as maybe give you more confidence as playmaking ability, I think you'd like Watson a little bit more. But I think Bourguet is probably the safer bet because if you did have to turn to that QB2, I think Bourguet's, he's done a nice job with the offense. He knows the offense. And he was someone, too, that as far as a recruit, I mean, his dad is like one of the founders of 7-on-7 football. It's a football family down in Arizona, the Bourguets. And I think he'd be a solid player for BYU. But it's just been interesting because A-Rod has never committed to saying like Bourguet is number 2. In fact, when he was a high school recruit, BYU really didn't commit to him. They kind of backed off. He was heavily interested in BYU as a recruit. Instead, he goes and gets a scholarship at Western Michigan, and then he goes into the portal and picks BYU as a walk-on. This guy loves BYU, and I don't think you just reward someone because he's always shown up and wants to be there. But I think that he would be okay. He's going into his 3rd year in the program, and I think he's probably the guy that you'd turn to because of that knowledge of the offense. Probably give him the QB2 nod.
Switching a little bit to basketball, Mitch, the transfer portal is still a few days away from being open, but we've seen guys put their names out there, players at Utah and Utah State, but we haven't heard anybody from BYU. Have any idea what might happen?
Yeah, that's to me going to be really interesting with BYU in the portal, and I think it's been noteworthy that they haven't had any sort of declarations that they've intended to go to the portal. I'd look at guys like a Dominique Diamande, a Tyler Moross, Bidou Ahmed, coin flip guys. Like, how does the coaching staff view them, and do those guys want a bigger role? I think BYU wants to have retention. I mean, that has been a calling card with the football program. I think Kevin Young wants that too, to just kind of build off of, some of the successes that this team had. But again, they got to upgrade that bench, and in particular, they got to get more size, and they got to have more shooters. I think that the size, though, is going to be critical for this BYU team because they just really had no offensive firepower with Keita, Bidou Ahmed. Staten never played. He was dealing with a knee injury, and he's someone, too, that I would lump in that bucket of how does the coaching staff view him? How does he view his role going forward as these exit interviews continue? We'll say, though, these guys have been I think many of them want to be at BYU. I don't think it's a case of this locker room was disjointed or anything like that or issues from that standpoint. I think this was a team that liked each other, like being, teammates with one another. I think it's just kind of a situation of, does this coaching staff's views of this player align with what they want to reach in the sport? Are they patient enough too? Because also when with the rev share, even though many teams are blowing past the rev share allotments with the College Sports Commission, BYU is still going to try to adhere to rules as much as they can. Like, they're going to find ways to get a heavily resourced roster, but still, I think they're going to try to play within the confines of that rev share budget. So by that sense, this is the first true portal cycle where that's in play. Last year, it was forecasted what the rev share allotment was going to be, but it was never in place. This is the first offseason where that's a thing. So that could cause maybe the total allotment designated to the roster being a little bit less than what it was last season with a star like AJ on board.
Yeah, that doesn't that make you a little nervous though? I mean, and there's probably 3 groups of schools here. There's a group of schools that's going to blow right by that number. They are going to blow right by it. It's not a rule. They didn't sign the agreement. They're not living by it. We want to win. We're going to spend more money. That's one group of schools. There's a group of schools that doesn't have the money. So of course they're going to say they're going to live by it because you're in the Big Sky or the Big West, whoever, you don't have the money. But for the schools that could have the money, that's a little risky to say we're going to play by these rules when you know full well you're going to be on the court competing with teams that are not playing by those rules. I get why you want to say that and you want to be the school that follows the rules, but it looks like you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage. And if people didn't sign the rules, it doesn't feel like they're cheating. They looked at it and said, no, I don't want to do it. They were up front. Can you really play by a different set of rules than the other power brokers when you want to be one of the power brokers?
Well, then that's where you find those NIL, donors to find a lucrative NIL deal to kind of, build up the total budget. But from the rev share perspective, that's where it, gets a little bit cloudy, a little bit of a gray area for BYU.
But the total spend then can go through the roof because you're covering it with NIL, which is what I assume the top of the Big Ten and the top of the Big 12 and the top of the SEC are all going to do in basketball.
No question. I think that's where this is a little bit of a different offseason from the roster building, because a lot of that, roster construction, football and basketball, you saw, even with football, some commits making their declarations known before, I think it was June 1st, or that was kind of like when the rev share went into effect. So a lot of players were committing early.
So if you just had to guess, counting recruits, how many new guys do you think would be on the team next season?
I'd say, so let's say you look at, you got Bruce Branch, he's coming in, and then you've also got Dean Rickert also arriving. Those will be 2 high school players. I think from there, you focus solely on the portal. I think you get to about 6 guys. I think you need, about 4 portal guys to step right in and contribute. And, I think that's because you watched last night too with the McDonald's All-American game with Bruce Branch. He showed some flashes. He's a talented player, but I don't think anyone in this freshman class for this cycle pops the same way like Darren Peterson, AJ, Cameron Boozer did with the McDonald's All-American game last year. There was no one that just said, wow, this guy's going to take over college basketball like those guys. You just felt like they had that ability in them from day one to be carrying the program. Bruce Branch is only 17 years old. He's not going to be asked the same expectations I would expect as AJ was. Now, could he be an NBA guy? Absolutely. I mean, the body type is tailor-made for the type of guys that Kevin Young works great with. Catch and shoot guys that love to get on the glass and rebound and are good passers. I mean, Kevin Young thrives with those type of athletes, and he's going to be an NBA guy one day, but they need some, bona fide college stars, and that's where you go into the portal. Ideally, guys that can shoot, and those are everyone's coveting those guys that are big guys that can shoot the basketball and extend out defenses. So I think, though, that's where BYU, the thing about them is that with their staff, they have a recruiting department where they are throughout an entire season. If a certain player hits the portal, they're going to identify and target that guy. They build out a board of kind of their potential, portal targets, as many of these Power 4 programs. So there's a strategy. And when those names hit the portal, April 7th officially, then it's go time. But as we know, I mean, behind the scenes, it's all, coming together right now to the point where I wouldn't be shocked if we see moves happening, like 12:01 a.m. on April 7th, like we did back in the day with NBA free agency. Yeah. So it could be pretty wild, I would expect.
Kevin talked about shooting, shooting's a priority. He said that at the NCAA tournament. That was his immediate reaction. But when he steps back more and he looks at the whole season, looks at all the numbers, is he going to emphasize defense more? Because I'm seeing I get the defensive rating numbers in front of me. Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, all top 10 in the country. They're elite teams. BYU is 9th in the conference in defensive rating, and I think it's like 59th nationally. Like, they have got to get better defensively if they're going to get where they want to go. I totally believe that. I haven't heard him talk about it. It doesn't mean he isn't prioritizing it. What do you know? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think offense is always going to be priority number one, I think, for Kevin Young. And honestly, I mean, I think that if BYU could somehow, with an adjusted efficiency defense, in those advanced metrics, maybe get top 25, that would be a perfect world. But I think ultimately still, you got to put the ball in the hole. Like even that Arizona game in the Sweet 16 against Arkansas, they gave up more than 80, but they put up 109. And BYU's, I think, they feel like personnel-wise this past year, they had that type of team. And even with their squad that reached the Sweet 16, They gave up 110. I think this year's team did get better in certain stretches defensively, in the non-conference in particular, than that first year under Kevin Young. But I think, in the latter stages of Big 12 play and in the postseason, it became a mess. And I think what was frustrating, I think, this year for this year too, was just they just seemed confused the entire season. Even in the NCAA tournament against Texas, there were just these defensive lapses that you would have thought would be happening in November, and it's happening with the season on the line. I think that defense will obviously they feel optimistic they can be better on that end, but I think still Kevin Young, his DNA is offense, and BYU is always going to be wired to be elite on the offensive end. And even though I don't think their offense was necessarily better this year, the way it was operating because of so much on ISO and relying on age, and they weren't spreading it around like they did in year one as much because they just didn't have the guys that consistently rely on. But I think that's just kind of who Kevin Young is. He's going to field teams that have a starting, where they could be a top 10 offense. And then defense, if they could get, have a breakthrough year where it's, top 25, top 30 in advanced metrics, then they're playing with something. They could make a run and go do the thing. But I think, having a little bit more fit size would help that cause naturally to pair up with what should always be a good offensive attack under Kevin Young.
Mitch, we'll leave it right there for now. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and talking football and basketball with us.
You bet, guys. Take care.
There's a BYU insider for KSL Sports, Mitch Harper. You can check him out at kslsports.com. He's got a lot of videos up on YouTube. And, of course, he joins us here periodically on the show as well. Everything you missed in this show coming up next. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Ace Bailey, he didn't come in, kick in the door and say, "This is my team now, everyone."
Absolutely, that's a big part of it. But
which I think is a great sign, actually.
Had the Jazz needed Ace to do what he did last night all season, this would have been a team that had a good rookie and had a really long future still ahead of them.
Yeah, nothing else.
And that's not going to be the case. And that's where this really gets interesting for me with what does Ace's future look like. But him doing this now is probably the best time for the Jazz. Nobody else is playing. He's just getting a lot of opportunity. He's getting a taste of what this stardom looks like. And then he's got to come back and fit in with another roster next year.
Yeah, he's got the pull-up. He's got the three. Man, that's a good-looking shot.
Yeah.
He's bouncy.
Yep.
He's blocking shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything you want to see from a rookie making progress.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. We've discussed many things this morning, PK, including at the top of the list, AJ Debonsa. Was he worth it? You and I both said yes, and then we were trumped by Tim Lacombe, who said, hell yes, and then proceeded to list, I don't know, at least a half dozen different ways that BYU benefited, even though it didn't have the ending everybody wanted in the conference standings and the conference tournament or the NCAA tournament.
That puts them right with however many Division 1A schools are there in basketball, -1. Everybody else didn't have the ending that they wanted.
So get over it and enjoy the fact that you got tons of exposure and your packed arena is going to help recruit other people and bring other players in. And you had a good time along the way. And we got a lot. Well, we got feedback coming in from people. A lot of people have weighed in on social media that they had a great time along the way. So there you go.
Well, I really believe that he will come back for his sophomore year because he had a great time.
You do not believe that.
I think that, my sources are telling me that announcement could be made. It has to be made today, though. Lloyd's getting nervous. He better talk. And the reason why it has to be made today is because today's April Fool's. No, I fully expect him. It'd be great if he wanted to come back. You know, this kid has already traveled the path. What is that? What's that expression, Yak? The travel the path that is not used or less chartered or whatever?
The path less traveled.
The path less traveled. Yeah. He's already done that. Could you imagine if he came back for a sophomore year? Would that be the first ever where a top 5 pick, since they decided that high school seniors could no longer be drafted, that they would go with you must go to college or you have to wait a year, whatever it is, and most of them go. And if he decides to come back the second year, that would be stunning. That path would be even less traveled than the path he took to go to BYU in the first place.
The path that hasn't been traveled since Tim Duncan played. The path that's been grown over in the last 25 years. He needs to take a machete and hack everything back to rediscover the path.
Yeah, and obviously Van Horn and Andre Miller, both those guys played 4 years. They could have gone easily. I mean, Andre's stock was never higher than after his junior year.
Right. Oh, yeah. He could have bolted after that triple-double against Arizona in the regional final. He was good to go.
Yeah. He should have opted out of the Final Four for injury concerns.
I'm out. Way ahead of his time.
Hey, what was he going to do anything better than that?
No. He's just like, wow, those are 2 NBA guards, and they just got shut down.
Yeah, and he dominated like no other in that game. That was just awesome. Yeah. So, but I was saying Eze, he has to announce today if he's coming back because today is April 1st, which means it's April Fool's Day.
Yes, we'll get to that coming up in our next segment. There's multiple April Fool's jokes out there. We'll get to those, people reacting to them. We have time for that. So we talked quite a bit about that. We talked a little bit about the Final Four. You got any gut instinct in what Tommy Lloyd is going to do? Is he going to take that Carolina job and start tipping over dominoes here, or leave that for somebody else?
Oh, I wouldn't if I were him. I would stay.
Got a good thing going?
You're in the West, and you're in a better league than you've ever been in, and you won it. And you won it in dominating fashion. And your school is a basketball school. They're one of the few that I saw this. They spend more money on basketball than they do the other sport. So what more do you want there? Why move across the country? I'm not a grass is greener kind of guy. You don't mess with not good, but great. And
North Carolina gives him the leverage to get whatever it is that he doesn't have that he wants.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's much.
I agree. Right. From your salary to your assistant's salary to the recruiting budget to the NIL budget to facilities, whatever.
And he paid homage to Lute Olson, who is the founding father of the program and really built it up. There was a guy before him, this guy named Snowden, who had some success.
Fred Snowden, right?
Yeah. He had some success, and then it slipped. And then they actually hired a Grand Canyon coach for one season, and it was a disaster. And then they brought in Lute, and off they ran. And Sean Elliott committed as a local kid from Tucson, and that program hasn't looked back. They had a couple of, a few down years there, but they've gotten past that. So Tommy can be the toast of the town in a manner of Lute Olson. So I would stay, but do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Jazz tonight, we're down to 6 games, just 6 more games in Tankathon 2026, and then we can all move on. Since they've got this little cushion, shouldn't they just go for it now?
No.
Give these guys a taste of something, see if they can beat Denver?
No.
They got a cushion. It doesn't matter. You still think someone could
stay committed to the bit?
You've come this far. Why would you stop?
Oh, development of the young guys, all that kind of stuff.
They're already developing them. They're continuing to develop them. And now you've sat George for so long. You've sat Collier.
No, not him. I think he's injured. That the hands, the limping off the court. I wouldn't bring him back.
But I mean, you've lost some conditioning here.
Yes,
you potentially risk another injury for what? For the development of young guys who are going to take a far greater reduced role.
21-61. Here we come.
I mean, everybody goes to the game tonight understanding what the story is. You can't be surprised at this point.
And even if they try, they wouldn't get it.
If you bought season tickets earlier in the offseason, you knew what this season was about. So do what you do. Have Will Hardy go up there and dog and pony some bright spot. Somebody who will score 15 or 20 points that we didn't see, and they'll build them up, and it'll be something because you're required to do it. The announcers are required to say something, so stay positive. And then next year it's real, man. It's absolutely real.
Thank goodness.
And if they don't play as well, then you can say it and not have to worry about it. You can speak the truth, and Will Hardy can speak the truth. Everybody can speak the truth. Yeah, I was saying yesterday that they were talking about the new tanking rules that came out. It's like, I don't care about them. It doesn't matter to me anymore. The team is not going to be tanking. And they're the team that I follow by far more than any other team. And what do I care if Sacramento is tanking or Washington is tanking? In fact, I would encourage as many teams, if I'm the Jazz in the West, to tank as possible, because then they're easy W's.
Well, I assume there'll be those easy W's. That'll be the interesting thing next year. You know, they ought to be able to hammer the bottom third of the league. That shouldn't be a question. Now the question is, how good are you against the middle of the league? How good are you against the top of the league? How high can you climb here? I would think you get to at least the middle of the league, but everybody wants more than that, and you've only got these guys signed for 3 years, so it's got to happen, and it's got to happen fast.
Well, everything has to happen fast. This is pro sports, and if you've come out of rebuild, the good thing about it is that it was a slow rebuild, obviously for 4 seasons, and it was tough. But when you get good, getting good shouldn't take the same type of pace that you're on. You should be good immediately this next season. You've got
Skip
players, and most of them are still below 30. We'll see who they add as far as that goes, and they can be good and have a chance to stay good, and that's the impressive part. I don't know that they're going to go to the playoffs 19 years in a row and all that stuff. This is a new world in which we live in, but it's fun to see. It will be fun to see how good they can be. And I suspect, you never know injury, but they'll be good and be competitive. And it'll be real, let's go Jazz, when the fans are chanting it in the fourth quarter of a home game.
For real.
Yeah.
The big money stories of the day: Major League Baseball Players Association has put away $415 million as of the end of 2025. Presumably they'll put away more in this next year to help them weather the storm of 2027 in case part or all of that season gets wiped out. So they can help players get through that. That and the Jacksonville Jaguars' $1.4 billion renovation of their stadium is going to have the team playing in Orlando in 2027. So never forget, it's a business, PK. There's some big, big money.
Well, the baseball thing here, I think for fans like myself, I think the best you can hope for is the season is maybe 2 or 3 weeks delayed because, and they've done this before, they've had labor issues and then they wipe out as much spring training as necessary, as deemed appropriate by whichever side is locking out or striking. And so then they have a truncated spring that maybe extends a little bit into April, and then away you go. If that's the case and they miss 2 or 3 weeks of the season, I'd sign up for that right now because last time they did that, I went down when they put together a quick spring training, and I was
you went down to Arizona?
Yeah, and I got some great seats for a reduced price. Yeah. I can remember going there, and I wasn't sure who was going, and I got like second row, and Kershaw was starting for the Dodgers. This is sweet. And, it's not, they're trying to get going as fast as possible. So the starters are going to get more at bats before you see them walk down the outfield and out the stadium. Right. And so, if that's the case, you're not taking any vacation that time of year because I'm going to be in Arizona. And because people can't plan for that. Right. So it's basically the locals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the locals, and an occasionally really committed snowbird retired person from Chicago or something.
Yeah, and they might already be there.
It jumbles everything. Yeah, they might already be there. They are a local for that portion of the year, I guess.
Right. And so, I mean, I was talking to the gal who cuts my hair, and she has a friend, and they were down there and talking about, well, they had to pay, I forget, I think the Yankees went out there apparently and played a few games this year, and that they were complaining that they had to pay real prices. And I said, oh, let me guess, who was it against? The Cubs? And she checked. Yeah, it was the Cubs. The Cubs dominate that area, man. Yeah, and the prices, you pay a lot of money. You pay $150 to go to a spring training game.
I get it. There's a handful of teams that the demand, and it's going to be there, and the Cubs are on that list. And I bet if you go to Florida and you want to pay to see the Yankees, well, I bet you pay an arm and a leg for that too.
Yeah.
If you want to catch a break, go see the Mariners or the Padres or the Marlins or somebody, right?
Which I have.
The Athletics can't be that expensive.
I've not seen the Marlins, but I've seen the other ones. I've been to all the stadiums in the Phoenix area.
Sure. All right, DJ and PK, we are taking a break. When we come back, your feedback and a couple of hilarious social media April Fool's Day gags. We'll get to those next. Stay with us.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
DJ PK, it's time for your feedback here on a Wednesday, the first day of April. And PK, people are having their fun.
Uh-huh.
We got Jazz account here tweeting out the news that the Jazz have been stripped of their first-round draft pick because they've been tanking. We've got Utah State football on the official account tweeting out a photo of Maverick Stadium with a new field. It's mostly white with black spots. It looks like a cow. They're calling it the cow print field. Introducing our new turf as we enter the Pac-12.
I saw one that said that Notre Dame and Sacramento State have entered into a 12-year agreement for a home-and-home football series.
Nice. I like it.
Forget Stanford. We're going to go to the Bay Area, and it's going to be Sac State now.
Hey, Notre Dame needs some exposure in the Valley, right? They've been in the coastal areas. They got to get in the Valley.
Except if that were true, they would play it in Levi Stadium.
Yeah, right? Go to Santa Clara.
As many people as fans of Notre Dame are. I mean, when they go out on the road to these places like that, I mean, they just about always sell out.
Yeah. We got people tweeting at Utah State. Honestly, you guys should go for this. LOL. I love it.
I don't think you want recognition for being a freak show.
Who dat Raider? Man, I wish this wasn't an April Fool's joke. No, it would look really weird.
Oh, how about
I
this?
don't think you want it.
The Babylon Bee. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it says CNN publishes real news story for April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Keep them coming, people. All right, then we got a lot of reaction here to the question. What's your reaction to Doug Gottlieb's assertion there's never been a person that's ever been more tampered with than A.J. DeBonce? He was on Colin Cowherd's podcast Sunday, and it's been Sunday night, and it's been making the rounds. Larry says, well, all the good ones are. Always tamper. Always reach out.
I'm over tampering.
Yeah.
To me, tampering is trying to win.
Mike, he'll go where he's drafted. Mike thinks all this is a bunch of drama about nothing. I would think so too, but I guess you shouldn't rule out the possibility that if he's second or if the Jazz have the second or third pick, he might try to leverage it somehow.
And I don't know that I've got a problem with that. I know it's been controversial when it's happened, but if you have leverage and can do it, very few can. But if you can and you want to, who am I to say no?
Right? All right, well, we'll see how all that plays out. We need the draft order first, find out if the Jazz are drafting first or fourth or seventh or who knows, wherever they turn out. They'll play tonight against Denver, 7 o'clock here on The Zone. Jake and Ben are coming up next. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.